Hello everyone. Here is my 55-gallon tank with a 30-gallon tank underneath being used as a sump. I did a couple of the DIY tutorials that are on YouTube, one of which was for the overflow for the sump. Because this is a tempered tank, I couldn't drill, so I had to build two 2-inch weirs with 1-inch drain pipes overflows out of them. There's two of them, only because if one of them gets backed up, it has a backup to overflow through and the tank doesn't overflow. If you're wondering what these little bushings are for under here, they actually turned out to be spacers. The original idea was if the pump wasn't, if I cut the grooves too low in the weir and the water level wasn't high enough, then I could just raise these bushings up a little bit and it would pick up the water level by blocking some of the weir holes. But didn't end up needing them for that because it actually works out perfectly the way it is. The little screens are just some needlepoint mesh that I put on there just for cosmetic purposes because my cuts for the weir weren't very straight and didn't look very neat, and this made it look a lot nicer. They just go through a standard overflow system that there's several tutorials on YouTube, and it goes down into the sump and it enters into an acrylic box that I made, which houses the mechanical media. There's a light diffuser with some ceramic tiles underneath, or ceramic media underneath that. Those ceramic pieces were just pulled out of an established tank and dropped in there just so they'd stay established. At some point they're going to get moved into another tank. I'm just shutting down the other tank, so needed that in here. The bio balls came out of another tank, so they're already established also. The ceramic tile sits on top of a drip plate, and that drips all the water down through the bio balls, which are nicely oxygenated. That's the water level right there at that light diffuser plate. Underneath that, there's about 2.5 gallons of bio balls also. There's 2.5 gallons of lava rock that are submerged. The water travels underneath the bubble, up over the next baffle into the Refugium, where I have the heaters, some misfit plants, some plants I shouldn't have bought. Basically the plants that don't look good right now, and just hopefully they'll recover. I put a couple pieces of mesh on each side of the Refugium, so if I ever put little fish or fry in here, they don't swim out of it and into the pump, and plants don't, overflow into the pump area. The water exits the Refugium, goes down a bubble wall and into the return pump area, where I have a Rio 20 high flow. It does about 1,290 gallons an hour, but with the pre-filter on it and a 6-foot head, it's only getting about 800 gallons, maybe 750 gallons. I have the ball valve cranked to about halfway, so it should be doing about 350 to 400 gallons an hour is what I was shooting for. At some point in time, I'd like to add an additional pump in here. A nice low flow pump that'll just pump water into a UV sterilizer. So if I ever moved fish in here from a quarantine or have an algae outbreak, I can just kick on the UV sterilizer, run it for a day or two. Nothing permanent, or that'll run permanently. It'll just be an occasional thing. The sump I did have a slight issue with because when I originally constructed it, I used the wrong silicone. I actually used this GE silicone 2 with the mold products in it. Ended up having to take apart all the glass out of the sump, all the baffles, and strip all the silicone, re-silicone everything using the GE silicone 1 without any of the mold products in it. Gave it about 72 hours to cure before I ever let it touch water. The water returns through a 3/4 inch pipe up to these outlets. The white piece you see there, that is actually a reducer from 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch, so that I can get a little bit more pressure not more water volume, just more water pressure. This one I left at 3/4 inch. I did put a little bushing inside of it to try to restrict some of the, to downsize the pipe a little bit, to try to create a little bit more pressure out of this. I have good water or surface movement and good skimming. There are some fine particles in the water right now, which I apologize for, but I was just messing around with this little Occion powerhead type thing, sort of like not a wave maker, but I don't know, it's not really a powerhead either. It's kind of a crossbreed. But anyways, the bracket on it broke, so it fell and it stirred up some crap off the bottom. And the worst part, the thing's brand new and the bracket on it already broke. All the plants came out of my other tank. I'm still waiting to add in my rainbows and puffers in here because, even though I used all established media and established water, I really kind of want the tank to cycle a little bit before I go dropping in all these fish, because there's 16 in total. And I just don't want the tank to crash with all 16 fish in there. I did put, because this was a Petco tank bought through the dollar sale, and it comes with no lids and whatnot, so I used those FRP tracks to do the do-it-yourself slider lid, which it came out pretty good. I did break one piece of glass when I was cutting it, so I got to go get another one. Got to put a couple pieces back there with a couple FRP splines, a couple more pieces of glass back there. The light itself, it can accommodate 4 T5 high output bulbs, 2 halide bulbs, and 6 LEDs. Currently only using 2 of the T5s, and they're 54 watt high output lights, which I'm hoping will be sufficient enough for this, since that's only about 2 watts per gallon. But since they're high output, I'm hoping that it'll offset it and get me closer to my 3 or 4, or equal to something equivalent to the 3 or 4 watts per gallon. In any case, that has been my project, which has been quite fun. Thank you to the people who put up the DIY tutorials online. Without it, I'd be stuck with some ugly equipment inside my tank because I wouldn't have known how to do this.